the Denver Nuggets tie up this series. They were down 2-0, and then they returned the favor, go into Minnesota, get 2 games in a row. So, Trevon, what are your thoughts on game 4, and how do you see this series moving forward?
What a response by the Nuggets, man. Like, this is championship pedigree right here. And it looked like the confidence may have been wavered and the Timberwolves had full control of this series, but the Nuggets just came into Minnesota and flipped that script. Every road team has won the game this series, which is something crazy to think about. But you just look at the Nuggets and think about, man, like they get everything that they need from each one of their players, their stars and their role players when it's needed most. And I think this game was most similar to game one, but I think the real big thing about it was one, what did Jokic say? They have to be able to cross the court, beat the pressure, not be rattled. And I think they've been doing that. Aaron Gordon's ability to basically become a point guard and bring the ball up. Like, just think about the game he had tonight. I know, I believe he was 10 for 10 for 25 points at one point in the game, hitting his perimeter shots, hitting mid-range turnarounds, doing a whole bunch of things that he has not done on this Nugget squad just because he hasn't had to. And when they've had their backs to the wall, he showed up. And I think that's the big story. Like, him being able to bring the ball up and be that point guard and allow Jokic and Murray to get comfortable into their spots. If this is a half court game, every single game of the series, the Nuggets are going to win just simply because your fear about the Timberwolves was their half court production, which they haven't been able to do. And not only Aaron Gordon, you got Christian Brown coming in, providing big minutes, Reggie Jackson doing his thing, Justin Holiday going out there and providing things for the Denver Nuggets. They're getting a full effort from this team, and it's showing that how true their championship pedigree is. The Timberwolves are going to have to find a way to be effective, especially offensively, without wreaking havoc and turning the ball over. They've still been playing solid defense. Like, if you think about shots that Murray has hit, he hit one over Jalen McDaniels in the first half, where Jalen McDaniels was fighting over the screen, getting through it, and Murray shot a shot with like 2 seconds left and was able to hit it. Like, those type of things are going to happen if you allow it to be a half court game, and you're still going to have to find ways to produce on offense. I think that the Timberwolves are going to have to find ways to get Anthony Edwards open. I think he's going to have to find ways to create advantages off the double team. It's clear that they're forcing everybody else to make plays, and they're kind of being the ones looking for help from the ref. They're going to have to find ways to finish through foul and contacts and things of that nature. I think they got a lot that they need to focus on. And my last point, I think they need to think about going back to that kind of 5-out offense, and that's unfortunately going to mean taking less minutes from Rudy Gobert because their offense is just not producing enough in the half court. Yes, he provides you stuff on the defensive end. Yes, he's able to help clean the glass. But if they're going to keep throwing double teams at Anthony Edwards, and you're trying when Anthony Edwards tried to make a few pocket passes to Gobert on that pick and roll, and it just didn't provide any offense. And when he gets fouled, he's missing the first free throw all the time, falling well short. He's not finishing through contact, even if it's a guard on him. So I think he's really not helping the issue out anymore. I think they need to make it more of a 5-out driving kick type game, make the Nuggets move a lot and not allow them to play 5-on-4. You know what I'm saying? I think they're going to have to really consider that because when they had that lineup without Gobert, that's when they really dominated the Denver Nuggets. So I think they have a lot of things to think about if they want to take back control of this series because it's up for grabs now.
Yeah, and like you mentioned before, great response by the Denver Nuggets in these last 2 games. That is how we expect a reigning NBA champion to respond. That's how we expect them to play. And that's what we were calling for in our video after game 2. I think you had said this in a video you did on game 3, but Murray, his ability to affect the offense for the Denver Nuggets him being able to get open and create separation from those defenders like Jaden McDaniels or Nikhil Alexander Walker or even Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards did the best job on him tonight, but his ability to get going, get open, and knock down shots and get into that two-man game with Jokic, it just opens up the offense for everyone else. And I think this was a great example of it because he only had 17 points tonight, but he got going early. And what that did, it opened up things for Jokic and it opened up things for Aaron Gordon. Like you mentioned, Aaron Gordon had a great night. He was 11 for 12 and 27 points on the night. And he was 2 for 3, knocking down threes in the corner. So he had a big game. Jokic obviously had a great game, 35 points. Justin Holiday was big with some big shots and big minutes. Christian Braun also put in 11 points, and he had a big shot in the fourth quarter, I believe it was, when the Timberwolves started trying to make a run, and he hit a three to stop that run. So it was just a great offensive outing for the Denver Nuggets. And we've always said this, right? Obviously the Timberwolves are a great defense. I even think that they did a really good job tonight, but great offense always beats great defense in the NBA, right? So the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're going to have some games like they did in game two where they're just great on the defensive end and they're just disrupting everything. But over the course of time, and as we get deeper into these games, especially in a 7 game series, when you have a team that's able to play you multiple games and start to figure you out, offenses just start to click after a while and they start to figure out how to create separation and knock down shots. So that's what we're seeing now. Now we have to see how the Timberwolves adjust going back to Denver. And for the Timberwolves, like you mentioned, my biggest concern for them coming into the playoffs was their half court offense. And I think it just showed in these last 2 games. And it's funny because right when I gave them props after game two for how well they've been playing offense in the playoffs, they come out with these last 2 games, and it's just been a weakness of theirs all season long. And it's funny because in the playoffs, they actually were like top 5 in points per game, and they were also top 5 in points per 100 possessions and all that stuff. Like they were actually playing really good on the offensive end, but I think it was a little bit of fool's gold because they were generating a lot of good shots on the fast break off of their defense. And then that gets their opponent on their heels. And then they start getting into a flow, and then things start going well for them offensively, right? And they're not always having to play in the half court. They can get up and down and all that stuff. But they struggled tonight on the offensive end. Anthony Edwards was great this game. He had 44 points, 16 for 25 shooting. I mean, he was their only consistent offense in terms of being able to create for himself and others. Nas Reed was really good. He was their most efficient player outside of Anthony Edwards, but other than that, it wasn't much help. Cat didn't really have a good game. And turnovers, man. Turnovers was a big thing. Anytime they got close to closing that gap, they would just have turnovers or just things that don't go in their favor. And that 8 point run that the Denver Nuggets had going into halftime, that was just a momentum killer for the Timberwolves because I believe the Timberwolves actually cut it down to within 10, and then the Nuggets went on that 8 point run. I believe Jokic hit KCP for a 3 pointer, and then Anthony Edwards turns the ball over. Nuggets get a fast break. MPJ gets the dunk, and then the Timberwolves throw a bad inbound pass, and Murray grabs it and throws up that half court shot. And just like that, the lead is back up to, I believe it was like 15 points. So it was just championship pedigree by the Denver Nuggets, and the Timberwolves just kind of were not able to rise to that occasion, and their half court offense wasn't good enough this game. But shout out to Anthony Edwards. He had a big game, and it's just tough. They're gonna have to figure some things out going back to Denver. And I think this is just an example of series in the NBA, right? You can't get too high, you can't get too low, us included. We can't overreact to 1 or 2 games, and this is what we want to see, right? It's a tie series going back to Denver, and I'm excited to see game 5.